Hello, I'm Dave March, the Spy Guy, and I had the misfortune of watching The Stand on Amazon Prime. I've read a little bit of the book. I've only completed one Stephen King novel. He's a real difficult guy to get into. I know lots of people like him, but I'm not a big fan of his. But I've seen a lot of his movies and the TV show or things made around his stuff. The best one is Needful Things. It's my favorite one of all. Max von Sydow is like the devil come to this small town and just setting things loose is great. But I'm not going to get to talk about that one. I'm going to talk about this piece of garbage. A few weeks ago, I was kind of despairing because I was doing all these videos on here and I would never talk about, just make sure that's on. I would never talk about a bad thing. And then I watched the recent Skylines and I kind of felt like bad giving it a good review, a bad review. But this thing, no, I don't really feel bad about this one at all because this show just doesn't pay off anything. It's not even so much its payoffs. It has payoffs, but it doesn't set up the payoffs to make them mean anything, and as a result it becomes flat. When you have your 1994, this is like a 9-part series. It's got 60 minutes of episodes. It's got like you could swear, you can do any of the stuff that you could do anywhere else. When you're not a 4-part miniseries with full commercials back in the made in the early 1990s, does better job of telling the story. The Stand is a better show than this TV show. It's a better retelling of the book. You got some problems. Like, there are whole sections of the book that I think are very important. I like I said, only read parts of them, but were well portrayed in the course of the miniseries, and they're just not in this, just excised. You don't know whole points of things. So there's, I guess we're kind of discussing the show, been discussing the series, but I'm spoiler warning. But if you're watching this, if anyone watches this, it won't be because they're worried about the spoilers. Anyways, in the book, the virus is called Captain Trips, and they keep mentioning it throughout this series, calling it Captain Trips, but they never explained to you why this is called Captain Trips. In the miniseries, the virus escapes, the military comes into the small town, it starts doing research trying to figure out why one person is immune to the other. But meanwhile, you get to see the world going falling apart. There's a guy who's a member of the virus thing from the military, who's a military spokesman, who goes out and constantly talks about what's going on, like, don't worry, this is not that bad a disease, blah blah blah, and he's Captain Trip. So when people start calling it Captain Trips, they're talking about him. We never find out who Captain Trip is during the series. We're constantly making references to stuff. It's like the people who made this show think you already watched the miniseries, or you read the book and don't need to see what happened. We're specifically going to avoid anything that really happens in the miniseries, and order to get to this thing. There was like a major, so those are not familiar, there's like after look, this thing came out, was written in the 70s, the 90s, the series has been in the 90s. I think people have a general understanding what The Stand is about. So I don't feel like, sometimes you have to spoil a little bit to get you interested in the story or know what's going on. So in The Stand, most of the world dies off, and then 2 factions rise in the United States, one in Boulder, Colorado, which is the forces of good, versus the forces of evil that are rising in Las Vegas. And what was I going to say? So those 2 forces are rising, but there's stuff that happens between those 2 things that are more well developed in the miniseries than in this show. I think one of the problems is they decided to do, like, we would do flash forwards and flash backwards and try to not explain what's going on, and thinking that you would kind of pick up things, but it just falls apart. And you never get connected to, and I've certainly never felt connected to most of these characters. Like we meet Stu Redman in the first episode, then we meet other characters in the other episodes, but we don't really connect to those people because it's kind of like, well, here's the story of Stu Redman, and we're not going to pick up with him to episode 4, and then he'll be back again, and maybe we'll have a little bit moments, and you just never find out why people start to fall in love with each other or have relationships with each other or why they hate each other. And I feel that it was done a better service during the miniseries and of course the novel. There's just like, there is a character who is the kid who gets bullied, and he takes it out on society, and he has these things, but like Harold is set up in such ways, and you're just like, this guy is completely unpleasant. There's no reason why I would like him. And it sends kind of a negative message. Well, the nerdy guy is evil, so he gets revenge on all those who've done him wrong. But what, like, we could do that better in some ways. So I'm going to I'm just going to, from here on out, like, I'm just not going to pretend. I'm just going to tell you why I hate this thing. Okay, so Harold is played by this guy, but they bring in a girl who's being played by Amber Heard. And a lot of people in the fan communities don't like Amber Heard because she does all these bad things. She's a terrible person. She did terrible things to Johnny Depp. That being said, like, she is a really attractive woman. And you're a nerdy guy, and you're being offered, you need to go kill all your friends, all these people who've done a terrible thing to you. Here's Amber Heard as your reward. You get to do all sorts of things with her. And she's like, literally here, like, I can do anything you want me to do. I can fulfill your fantasies. You just have to kill these people. And given this chance to be with, like, some people would think a really attractive woman, he kind of like falls to the side and doesn't do anything with her, and becomes more and more resentful to her during the course of the show. And it's like, I don't believe, like, watching this thing, it's like, I don't think he uses her at all. There's a situation later on, which in one of the few good moments of the development is that these two start to really hate each other. And there's a situation in the book and in the original miniseries, which I always kind of fell flat, was where Harold gets betrayed and killed. In this one, they do it a lot better. It's like one of the few things that does pay off. So there's a bad guy, and his name is last name Flag. And there's a setup for a scene. There's obviously a setup for a scene with a character who shows up, and Flag is given specific orders. I want you to capture this person, the spy who's in my territory, alive. And some guy shows up, and he's been sent on the mission to get her and kill her, and he kills her in a fight. And then we don't see that fight. We don't see any of that stuff. We get back to the base, and he's like, this guy's going up on the elevator, and he's like, the lieutenant's like, you're in trouble now. You totally killed the girl, the spy, when you're not supposed to. And Flag comes down. It's like, he does kind of a little bit Darth Vader moment, and then he like sends the guy out of the room, and then uses the supernatural powers to find him and then kill him in a brutal way. And I'm like, none of this, and then the entire time I'm thinking to myself, lame, no payoff, no write-up. So if we had a better written scene, what would happen is that bad guy who's there, who gets killed, is has some sort of, like, we should have seen him throughout the series doing bad things, proving himself to be a badass. And then he's sent off on this, maybe he's a psychopath, but he's kind of evil. So he's given this assignment, and people are like, are you sure you wanted to give that assignment to that guy? He's like, no, I think he knows his place. And then he goes off, and we see the scene with the spy, and then he kills her in a particularly gruesome way, or like, we may not need to watch it, but we do get to see that. Then he goes back, and like, maybe he's like killed like 20 people. There's like some sort of knocked around. We get to see why this guy's a cool guy, and why. So when Flag brutally murders him in a spectacular way, then Flag becomes a badass because he's killed off, like when Thanos beat up the Hulk kind of situation. We never get this. So I'm like, he kills some guy who's like maybe something, right? I have no prior relationship to that guy. And that's what happens. There's so many times in this series where we're introduced to a character, but we're never made to care about them. We're never given any reason to do anything. Like one of the big payoffs of The Stand, this is the like big spoiler, but this is why I don't like this show. So one of the characters, the last part of the series is these characters get sent off on like a suicide mission. They're picked up, they're brutally interrogated, and all this bad stuff happens. But one character is left to die in a canyon, and he's given enough pills to maybe kill himself if he needs to, but really he needs to use these pills to keep himself alive. In the book and in the original miniseries, another character we've kind of forgotten about now, who escaped from spying on the city, finds him and brings him back, like heals him up, helps him heal up, and returns him to civilization. That doesn't happen. It's not even explained. It's just like the girl who's waiting for her boyfriend to come home just sees him show up, and you get the feeling like I've seen the original series. I know I've read some of The Stand, so I knew what was happening. I knew all that the 5 chapters of storyline we had just skipped. But if you don't know, you don't know. And this happens throughout this series. We're just given things that there's just no payoffs, there are payoffs with no setup. So sometimes I complain about all Star Trek Picard and how it has all these setups with no payoffs. And here we have all this payoffs with no setup. And this is why I really hate this show. Like, write better. Also, like, I get it. He wrote this Stephen King wrote this in the 1970s. There was it's a certain time and place. And the 1990s really makes it up. It's like one thing they do in the that Stephen King was doing is that the flag was evil, reactionary, sort of right-wingish, in the sense that he's like, they crucified drug dealers. That's a big thing. Like these people, he's authoritarian lawlessness. And in this show, flag is not authoritarian authoritarian law order, strong reactionaryism. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. And when we go to New Vegas, we get to see that he's created this society that is like complete antithesis of what the original flag would have created in the original Stand. It's not a proto-fascist government. It's like literally you can do whatever the fuck you want. We have slaves here, we do this, we do that. There's gladiatorial pits. There's like, yes, there's a guy wearing a MAGA hat, whatever. But it was just like there was just all these people wandering around doing all these terrible things, like literally having sex in the open, and drug dealing everywhere. It's like, you've been denied everything you want, and now you can have whatever you want, and you just have to go and take it kind of situation. It's like, okay, so we get this whole kind of Sodom and Gomorrah feel. And then out of if you watch the miniseries and in the book, you find out that this is all about like good versus evil, and God is going to come down at the last minute, and like it's literally the hand of God reaches through this book. This is Stephen King at his most religious. God coming in and destroying Vegas in like a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. But you don't get that. You don't even get that. You don't even get the hand of God. Like the literal hand of God from the miniseries coming down and detonating the nuke. Oh, and that is another thing. Like the nuke, the guy, the trash can man, the bomber from the original miniseries is played by Matt Frewer. Let me just check that. Make sure. Sorry. Yeah, by Matt Frewer. But he's set up during the course of the series. We see like the main characters are traveling across we see him in jail. We see him blowing up stuff up. We get scenes where characters are traveling across the United States and to get to the safe zone. And we see like in the distance, the trash can man blowing up an oil derrick. he's given a half a minutes in the episode and then told to go off on his mission. But like, there's real in the miniseries, he has relationships with people. People know him when he shows up, and it's like, in this, like, no one knows anybody. I just don't feel, I don't connect to any of these characters. There's nothing really set up for these characters, and whether they live or die was kind of inconsequential to me, and that's why this show sucks. And except for a few minor things, I can't really recommend this to people who are even diehard fans of The Stand. Stay away. If you really want to see this done right, go watch the 1994 miniseries. Do not waste your time on this unless you really don't like yourself. Okay? This is dumb and stupid and badly written, and I guess it was directed nice, but it's just like, I need pay. If you want to pay off, you have to set up. I have to care. I have to like these people or hate these people. I have to like this all is supposed to matter. And you didn't. I didn't like any of these people, and I didn't care when they lived or died. And that's your fault, you bad directors. So if you like this kind of me angrily talking about stuff, you want to see this, like, share, subscribe below. Till then, I was the Spy Guy, and this has been, what I guess I should give you a number. I've been thinking about this for a day. It's 30 out of 100. It's a 3. Thanks. Thank you for watching, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.